knows what the future of motoring is. Is it petrol, diesel, hydrogen, electric? No one really knows for sure, but what I can tell you for sure is that today we're testing the Kia Soul EV. Just like the standard Soul of which it's based, the car has some quite striking looks. Its polarising style is matched with some modifications for this becoming an electric vehicle. So things like the grille is now completely closed off because of course you don't have an engine or any need to have any cooling there. And a lot of the fairings have been closed up, the spokes have been widened, all for aerodynamic benefit, because of course whenever you're looking at economy, every little bit of coefficient of drag counts, and so this has been designed to be as slippery as possible. It does have a bit of a boxy shape, but that does have its perks, of which we'll come on to. Now under the bonnet you'll find an electric motor that powers the front wheels, and that has the equivalent of about 109 brake horsepower. Whilst at 0 to 62 mile an hour isn't all that inspiring, a top speed of 90 miles an hour is more than enough to get you in trouble on the motorway. Now there are many virtues to owning an electric car, and one of which is the pure, unadulterated tranquility you get with not having engine noise at all. It's quite eerie to begin with as you just sort of glide along and there's a slight, I don't know, hum as the machine makes progress. But I tell you what, whenever you're about town and things, it's a really relaxing way to drive. Overall insulation for the cabin is really good, so there's not very much road or wind noise even at higher speeds, making this car, well, you know, a really interesting, relaxing place to be. You sort of come in, jump in, no matter how busy the city is around you, you're in your own little bubble here. Speaking of the interior, you do have some really nice finishes in here, some gloss plastics around the interior. Okay, it's a little bit beige for my liking maybe, but it is made up for by these rainbow speakers that sort of change colour and change their intensity depending upon what music you're listening to. It sort of brightens up the cabin a little bit. Seats are nice and comfortable, and you don't really do away with any amenities just because it's an electric car. You still have a large touchscreen infotainment display. That's actually the same as you find on most Kias. It's a really, really good unit. And also I've got heated seats and climate control also, so you're not really making sacrifices for being a little bit eco-friendly. Now there is a mode actually to save some battery where it just heats one side of the car if you're the only person in the car. It saves heating the entirety of the cabin. And mounted in the dashboard are these blue LEDs, which from a glance on the outside you can tell how much the car is charged up if you left it to charge outside a shop or outside your own house. Moving into the back, there's plenty of room. There's actually space for 3 adults thanks to the lack of a transmission tunnel back there. So there's loads of legroom, plenty of headroom, and its boxy shape means that a 281 litre boot is pretty handy. There's also some cubby holes underneath the boot floor to store all of the charging cables. Speaking of charging, the time it takes varies depending upon what charging station you use. So you can plug it in at home, and it takes obviously quite a bit of time from a standard electrical socket. It's 5 hours from empty on one of the faster chargers you can get, or on its fastest charge, you can get 80% battery in just half an hour. Now on a full charge, Kia say this car will do 132 miles, but the only thing with electric cars at the moment is that temperature, and there's plenty of varying factors, which means that you might not be able to charge the car to that 132 miles. To be totally honest, in the time that we've had this car, the most we've charged it to is 83 miles at 100%, which is a little bit less than claimed. But in its defence, whenever you drive along, it can surpass how many miles it says it's got left in its range. Obviously, taking it onto a motorway, it will drain a little bit faster. Another means the car has of charging itself is through regenerative braking. Lift off the throttle and the brakes trail a little bit and add some charge into the battery. Of course, the harder you brake, the more those batteries regenerate. It's just a means of not wasting the energy that would otherwise be lost through braking. Whilst charging your car can be a little bit of an inconvenience, the savings of an electric car are huge. So because there's only really 2 moving parts in the car, maintenance costs are obviously very, very low. And of course the massive fuel saving, and you don't pay tax at all either. For extra peace of mind, Kia have also included their 7-year 100,000 mile warranty on this car. What's the Kia Soul EV like to drive? Well, in truth, it's quite a lot like any other car that you've ever driven. The steering's nice and light, it's easy to manoeuvre around town, visibility is actually pretty good all the way around, and this car also includes a reversing camera. There are variable modes for the steering to weight it up a bit if you prefer, but overall it's quite light in most of its modes, and that's quite telling because this car is ultimately designed for around town and occasional motorway use. With the batteries being in the floor, the centre of gravity is nice and low, and the car actually handles a little bit keener than you might expect. Obviously it's nothing super exciting, but there's plenty of grip and it always feels quite sure-footed. One of the biggest benefits of having an electric car is, of course, when you put your foot down, it's like an on-off switch, so you have all of the power, all of the torque immediately, which makes it great for shooting out of a junction and taking your opportunity for an overtaking manoeuvre. The acceleration would actually have you believe that it's a little bit faster than it lets on. Now, the Kia Soul EV will cost you from £24,995, including the UK government's electric car grant. Is it worth making the jump to electric cars, or is it still a premature technology? Well, obviously you're paying a bit of a price premium to have this technology before it's become mainstream, but I have to say this is the way things are heading. An electric car, for the majority of people who have maybe a 30-mile commute, it makes a lot of sense and you could save a lot of money with this car. Yes, there is that initial outlay, but so long as you plan your charging, let's say the average person, if you commute 30 miles a day, you'd use it for 2 days, plug it in overnight, and then off you go again for another 2 days for effectively motoring for free. It's so negligible, the costs of running a car like this.
Thanks very much for watching, and let us know what you think in the comments below. Please subscribe for more on the latest and greatest cars to hit the road. For all of the latest automotive news, written reviews and coverage from motor shows, go to www.insidelane.co.uk.